So if you want to do JavaScript, you have to know some very basic HTML. Ideally, you'd be pretty comfortable with HTML before you get to JavaScript, but I know that's not necessarily true for all of you. And we're using JavaScript just as an introductory language that will hopefully give you the basics to program in whatever you want. So you're not required to have a strong HTML background to do this, but you do need to know some fundamentals of HTML. If you've really never seen any HTML before, this is going to give you a super basic introduction. If you feel uncomfortable with any of the HTML that pops up in the rest of class, and there won't be much of it, I'd suggest going to W3 Schools, which has a great HTML tutorial. You don't need to go through the whole thing at all, but it will allow you to look up some of the things that you might not understand and try them out. What I'm going to do here is just give you the super basics. If you know about HTML, if you're comfortable with it, it's totally fine to skip this video. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a language used to make web pages, and generally static web pages. The JavaScript that we're going to do allows you to add interactivity. The HTML document always starts with the HTML tag. Anything that's in these less than and greater than signs, which I'll just refer to as brackets from now on, is a tag. So we start with the HTML tag, and then we have the body tag, which is the body of the document. I'm going to close those off. And so what I'm adding here are end tags. We have a / and then the name of the tag. So this ends the body, and then this one ends HTML. So I went ahead and saved this as HTML, and so now our tags are color-coded. You can also have a head section of your HTML document. The stuff that goes between the body and the end body tags is what will appear on the page. The stuff that goes in the header does not appear on the page. It includes things like JavaScript, but can also be style sheets and other data. So we'll probably be working in both sections of that in example files that I give you guys. So that's the basic structure of a document. Things that we'll often use are form elements, especially buttons, and there's a couple other little attributes that I have to show you. So one thing we'll do are buttons. There's a couple ways to have these. One is button type equals button. So here we're using the button tag, that's the name of the tag, and then we're adding some attributes. These attributes have a name, in this case it's type, and a value, which is button. And then I can put here, click me, that's the text that will show up on the button. Now if I want to look at this page, I'm going to save it. I have mine saved in this web programming directory. The name of the file is html.html. You should always have the .html extension on your HTML files, and it's important that you know how to open them in your browser. So I'm going to go over to my browser here. I'm just going to do Control-O, or you can do File Open. I'm already in the web programming directory, and there's my file. So if I open that, here is my page. I've got it zoomed in so it's easy to read, and it says Hello World, and then we've got our button that we can click. Okay, most of what we're going to be doing in this class is actually loading up our pages like this and trying them. Okay, so that's one way that we can do a button. Another way to do a button is with the form tag, and we do input type equals button. That should be in quotes to be proper, though it'll work if you forget them. And then instead of ending it and having the text that appears on the button, we do value equals, and then that's the text that shows up on the button. And then we end our form tag. Forms are useful for other things that we can do with them, and so we'll be doing these either way. If we save that and reload, then we can see our second button. It looks and works the same way as the first one. Okay, so those are buttons and forms. One other thing that we want to look at is the ID attribute. So we're going to do the P tag, that stands for paragraph. You use that generally around paragraphs of text, though there doesn't have to be any text after it. And we're going to do ID equals my paragraph. These IDs have to be unique, so you can put IDs on lots of things in your documents, but they all have to be unique. I'm going to end my P tag. So by default, this isn't going to do anything. I've saved this. Here's what our page used to look like. I reload, it looks exactly the same. But once we have that ID, we can use that in our JavaScript to change what appears on the page. So these IDs will be important, and in fact, we'll put them all over the place. We'll put them in our forms, we'll put them in our inputs. Another attribute that you might see is name, and often we'll set that to be the same as the ID. There's different ways of referring to things. So we could have the name of our form be form 1 and the ID is form 1. It just gives us two different ways of accessing it. So you'll see both. Sometimes I'll use one and sometimes I'll use the other. It's always okay to have both, and it's okay that within a tag the name and the ID have the same value here. Okay, so that's the basics of HTML. And that hopefully will make you comfortable enough that you can get going with the JavaScript. Like I said, if you have any problems, check out some tutorials. Everything should flow easily from there.